Okay, it is a quarter to one on August the 12th. It's August the 12th, quarter to one. I wanted to upload a video. Everybody's talking about Joe Biden picking Kamala Harris for vice president and how that's historic, and it is. It's truly historic. But I've noticed that a lot of the media, a lot of them, I mean, forget about the right-wing idiots that are pointing out that her mom is from India. Well, actually, it's a good thing that those right-wing idiots are pointing out that her mom's from India, because that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about. Her mom is from a part of India called Tamil Nadu, okay? And before I get into what's up in Tamil Nadu, I want to talk to you a little bit about the history of India, right? Because, of course, American educational system is complete shit. And I'm a teacher saying this. The American educational system is complete shit. I used to teach in Texas, and I'm telling you, because Texas has such a large impact on the textbooks, American education system is shit. Right, the people in Texas don't, I mean, we used to have, believe it or not, we used to have somebody that was in charge of the Texas State Board of Education that said, English was good enough for Jesus, it should be good enough for everybody. That's the kind of people that have an impact on the textbooks in America. But that's another thing for another day. Anyway, let's talk about the history of India real quick, okay? And in order to talk about the history of India real quick, we need to lay down some basic facts, right? There's a Reverend Al Sharpton has a line. He has a lot of good lines, but one of the lines that he likes to use is, "We can have different opinions, but we got to agree on the same facts," right? So in that spirit, let's have some agreement on some facts, right? Right around the time of Ramses and King Tutankhamun in the Second Dynasty, to give you a kind of idea of what I'm talking about, right around that time, we're talking about 3,500 years ago. Yeah, we're talking about 3,500 years ago, maybe 4,000 years ago, depending if you understand the difference between BC and BCE, right? BC means before Christ, and BCE means before the Common Era, right? The people that understand the historicity of the Gospels understand that the first one, Mark, I think, or Matthew, whichever one you think is the first one, was written about 50 years after the incidents that they're talking about writing, which is basically like saying somebody starting to write a book today would be writing about what happened to John Lewis, right? What happened to John Lewis is about 50 years ago, right? So somebody writing a book today would be like trying to, and there's quite a few people that are still alive from the march, but let's suppose all of them are dead, like John Lewis and the rest of them, and he's writing a book about that march. That's basically what the Gospels are, right? They're like 50 years difference. So people who understand that difference, right, don't usually go with BC. They go with BCE, right? Because there's like almost a century, 50 years, right? And then the next one was written about 15 years, and then the next one was written about 10 years, and then the last one was written about 15 years after that. So from the first gospel to the last gospel is about 40 years. And the first gospel was written about 50 years after the incidents. So you're looking at about 100 years, right? So BCE, I'm going to use BCE. About 4,000 years BCE is what I'm talking about, okay? Around 4,000 years BCE, in India, the dominant peoples in India were called Dravidians, okay? There were two distinct languages in India, all right? There was the Dravidian language, and then there was the Sanskrit language, okay? The Sanskrit language is the forebearer of English as we know it today, right? Sanskrit led to Latin and Greek and the Romance languages and all that shit, and we got English today, right? The Dravidian languages are the languages that went into further Southeast Asia, Thailand, Laos, all that shit. You want to know something really interesting? The people of Korea have a reverence for the story of Rama in the Ramayana, the great religious, social story of India. There's the Mahabharatam, which is the great story of India, and then there's the Ramayana of Lord Rama. In Thailand, in Laos, and in the Southeast Asia, and Korea, believe it or not, the story of Rama is a big deal, right? Any of you who watch this video who know anything about Muay Thai, the martial art, there are sequences, katas, of the martial art in Muay Thai where they talk about Hanuman, right? Hanuman flies to Lanka, all that. The story of Rama is a big thing in Southeast Asia, that part of Asia, even all the way up to Korea. It's amazing. In Korea, the reverence that they have for the Ramayana and the story of Rama and Hanuman and all that shit, it's amazing, right? It really is. Anyway, so the Dravidian languages, right, were dominant in Tamil Nadu, in Andhra Pradesh, in the southern parts, in Sri Lanka, Ceylon, Sri Lanka today, right? In those areas, right? The reason that I'm bringing this up is that the other culture in India at the time of the Dravidians 4,000 years ago were Aryans. Okay? And I'm not talking about these peckerwoods in Idaho. Right? I'm not talking about these inbred fuckwads in Mississippi. I'm not talking about the Klan. I'm talking about what archaeologists and historians refer to as Aryans. If you want to get your mind blown, after you watch this video, take out your little phone and go ask Siri or Google or Bing or whatever the fuck and ask them where the Aryan king is buried. There is only one king in history that has ever called himself an Aryan. Aryan, however you want to pronounce it. Only one. You want to know where he's buried? In Iran, which is the etymological ancestor or descendant of the word Aryan. The word Aryan from Sanskrit is how you got Iran today. Okay? There's only one king, one ruler who ever declared himself the king of the Aryans. And he's buried in fucking Iran. That is no shit. You can look that shit up. Ask your fucking phone. Ask Google. Ask Siri. Ask whoever the fuck. Ask Bing. Look the shit up. There's only one king in history that has ever made that claim, and his ass is buried in Iran. Okay? That you can look up all on your own. The break between the Aryans and the Dravidians, according to the Vedic literature, right? The Vedas are like the oldest text of mankind. Fuck what you hear about the Bible, right? Even Jewish people will tell you the longest surviving religion is Hinduism. They'll tell you that shit, right? The oldest surviving text, or the oldest surviving religion is Hinduism, and it was passed on verbally at this time 4,000 years ago, pre-writing and all that shit, right? The writing that they used would dissolve anyway, so verbal text, right? India's hot, man. Not a lot of shit's going to survive in India. Fucking leather dissolves in India, okay? Anyway, the split that happened between the Aryans and the Dravidians is memorialized in the Vedas. In the Vedas, they talk about there are these teachers, right? These rishis, these great spiritual minds. You get it, right? In Hinduism, in Indian theology, there is revealed scripture that you read, and then there's revealed learning that is just revealed to you directly. Right? You access this universal knowledge, right? In Asian theology, the universal mind, the universal construct can be accessed, right? It is possible. It's possible, and you can access it. And a lot of the theology and the spiritual teachings come from that revealed knowledge, right? And one of the stories of one of the people who reveals this knowledge, his name was Ashtanga, right? Those of you who practice yoga should recognize that name, right? He's the one, Ashtanga Yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga, right? You know, Pantalaji is the one that's like, you know, his whole yoga treatise and shit. But Ashtanga is a type of yoga, right? And he did it too. It's a, you know, Raja Yoga kind of thing, right? There's a story where this guy, he's traveling across the mountain range that kind of splits northern India from southern India. The I can't remember the mountain range. I should know this. I taught geography. Andhya Mountains, Ayodhya is Rama's kingdom. Andhya Mountains, something like that. It's like right where India splits. There's like this mountain range, kind of like the Appalachians split the United States, but this one goes across. And in the story, Ashtanga, when he crosses the mountains, he asks the mountains to bow down to him. Or he asks the mountains ask him who the fuck he is, and he tells them who he is, and the mountains, in reverence to the power of this holy person, bows down to him, right? And that's why the mountains are bent. That's the story. It's a cute little story. But that story actually marcates, right, when the Dravidian kingdoms in the south and the Aryan kingdoms in the north formed a kind of alliance, okay? The next major treatise, religious, social kind of treatise, is the Mahabharatam, yeah? And in that story is a great big old war, right? Kurukshetra, the battlefield of the Kurus, right? Big fucking battlefield, right? They're looking for that shit. It's a big fucking battle. They found a bunch of other shit. They're looking for that shit. I could be wrong. They might have found it. I haven't kept up with it. Anyway, when that battle ended, okay, the fractured nature of the kingdoms in India, they kind of waged a weird ass separation, right? The whole we're not talking about the caste system. The caste system predates all that shit, but because of the caste system, they kind of used it, right? Kind of like Jim Crow in a weird kind of way. And the Dravidians were driven further south, right? And their kingdoms were kind of shrunk. There were some pretty powerful fucking kingdoms, man. The Godavari River and the Govinda River in southeast India. Oh shit, man. There's some fucking kingdoms you wouldn't believe, right? Just amazing. Just in mathematics and philosophy and all that shit. Just unbelievable, right? I'm not going to go into that. The reason I'm bringing all that up is that split that happened about 4,000 years ago got reinforced by a colorism thing that still inhabits India today. It's fucking amazing. It really is. It has a little bit to do with the 400 plus years of being under British sort of rule kind of thing. You know what I mean? Being fucked over by the British. But there is a colorism. And Kamala's family, from where they're from in Tamil Nadu, are very in touch with that type of colorism, man. Right? They understand that shit. Right? I can't remember who the fuck did she marry? She married some dipshit. Oh yeah, that Indian chick that married the Jonas Brothers guy. Right? He married some northern Indian chick. Right? Maybe she doesn't, because I think she got called on it a couple of times. They push colorism. Right? They push colorism. They push a fucking cream. Pond's is one of the big sellers, but they push a skin lightening cream that using these models. Think of them like the Kardashians, except they got talent, right? The chick that married the Jonas Brothers, her family made a fortune on that shit. Her and her family pushes that shit, skin lightening cream. Buy this cream to lighten your skin, right? Because dark skin is not attractive, right? It's fucked up. Right? And this colorism, the reason that I bring it up is this colorism will start to show up in the elections coming up. The Republicans haven't seized on it just yet. They're getting to it. The ones that are bringing it up, like Mark Levine and what's that Nazi on Fox News, the white chick, Laura Ingraham, they're bringing that shit up. Watch what I tell you. They're going to start focusing more on that colorism variation, right? And you'll see it, right? Kamala's Miss Harris, Senator Harris is fairly light skinned for someone of Indian descent, right? And I'll give you that. But you will see that colorism show up because there's not really a way that they can drive a wedge in the support that she's going to get. But I want you to understand, some of the support that she's going to get is going to be very begrudging from the Southeast Asian community because of that colorism thing. I'm telling you. What you're going to see is a lot of those Divine Nine sororities and a lot of the black women that are going to be supporting her, like her chief of staff, Karine Jean-Pierre. She's a very dark Haitian woman. And the women that are, and Simone Sanders for the Joe Biden team, she's a very dark black woman. And the women that are going to come out as surrogates for Senator Harris and Vice President Biden, they're going to be dark as me or darker than me. And you're going to see that color issue come up. You're going to see it. You're going to see it. You're going to see it. You're also going to see something really interesting happen, right? If you've ever heard the term blood is thicker than water, you ever heard that term, blood is thicker than water? Most people think blood is thicker than water means that your family is more important than strangers. That's not what the saying comes from, and that's not what the saying means. Okay? In the Caribbean, in Jamaica, in Trinidad, Tobago, and those places, Haiti. Remember I told you, Haiti won their freedom in the 1700s, right? So, after Haiti won their freedom, the other slaves, the other plantations in Jamaica, the other plantations in Trinidad and Tobago, they figured some shit out, right? The Africans from Africa would escape, and the Indians, believe it or not, the Indians that were brought from India to be like the overseers in the plantations. If you want to understand how slavery was run in the Caribbean, take a look at apartheid South Africa around the time that Mahatma Gandhi was there. Mahatma Gandhi was an Indian like me, right? And he had skin like me, dark like me. And in South Africa, he was considered colored. And then there were the Africans, and then they got subgrouped like the Bantus and the Zulus and all that. But there were whites, there were Afrikaners, there were coloreds, and there were blacks. Right? And like that, in the Caribbean, there were the natives, there were the Africans, and then there were the Indians. Okay? The Arawak Indians and the others that were still there, the Tanoi, I think, they escaped the plantations because, fuck, they lived there. It's their island. Right? And the Africans would escape. And the Indians would escape. And the Africans and the Indians would hang out in the fucking hills. If you've ever been to Haiti or Jamaica, they got hills up there, man. Some rough motherfucking hills, right? If you've ever been in those hills up there, they hung out there and they said, you know what? My people are still trapped down there. My people are still in the plantations. And the Africans were like, yeah, mine are too. And the Indians are, mine are too. So the Africans and the Indians and the natives, they made a pact. They made a blood pact. They said, the blood of the pact is thicker than the water of the womb, because they understood that they were Africans capturing other Africans and selling them into slavery, and there were Indians capturing other Indians or shanghaiing them and selling them into slavery, and there were under other Indians, natives who were lost in a battle with other tribes that were sold into slavery. Not all kinfolk not all skin folk are your kinfolk, right? Not everybody who shares your skin or your culture is there for you, right? So these natives and these Africans and these Indians, they made that pact, man. The blood of the pact is thicker than the water of the womb, right? So the reason I bring that up is when they start talking about the slavery in Jamaica, or that Kamala Harris is not African American or her father owned slave, which is the dumbest shit I've ever fucking heard. Anyway, when they bring that shit up, they're going to have to reconcile with how the slave trade, and specifically how the freedom in Haiti helped Jamaica get free, Trinidad get free, Tobago get free, all those Hispaniola, all those little islands get free. And when they start talking about that, that's going to give the black people in this country an idea. Lots of ideas. Okay? Remember I told you to look into the Haitian Revolution when Dessalines and Toussaint when they after they fought their own little battles, when they started fucking up the French, you know who they fucked up first? Before they went after the French, before they went after the white people, you know who they fucked up first? All the collaborators. The people that were making money off of the slave trade and how they were being abused, those black people, the people that were accountants, the people that helped them run their business. We're not talking about the people that cracked the whip. We're not talking about them motherfuckers. We're talking about the people that worked in the banks. We're talking about the people that helped them keep their enterprises running, right? The cogs in the machine. Dessalines and Toussaint went and rounded them motherfuckers up and burned them alive. They slaughtered them motherfuckers first. Right? Then Dessalines and Toussaint went after the French. Right? Because when Dessalines and Toussaint first started their little battles, man, there was really no big, like, bum rush of these motherfuckers against the French. It was just a group of people. Because they knew if there were, I think what the term is, agents, right? They knew there were agents. They knew there were motherfuckers that would sell them out they knew that, how does that saying go? It is better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven, right? They knew there were motherfuckers that would sell them out just so they'd be higher up on the shit pile when everything was settled, right? They slaughtered them motherfuckers first. They slaughtered them first. They did. They did. Right? And in America, that whole idea has come here before, right? I would strongly recommend that you go look up Marcus Garvey. Go look up Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey, there's a famous saying by Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was like this. He said he wanted to get everybody back to Africa. He's like, fuck this. We need to leave this shit. Get the fuck out. If you listen to me, and also the NFAC, the dude that runs that, Grandmaster Jay, he's basically Marcus Garvey. He's saying the same shit. This ain't working for us. We need to get the fuck out. And that's what Marcus Garvey was saying, right? Marcus Garvey got that idea from what happened in the Caribbean. So let these white motherfuckers keep pushing that shit about the Caribbean, and some fucking ideas are going to start populating in this area, and it's going to get fucked up. It's going to get fucked up, right? You know? What's that guy's name? He wrote for Dave Chappelle, and he wrote for Richard Pryor, Paul Mooney. Paul Mooney has this great line. He said, man, I wish they'd bring back lynching, right? I wish they'd bring back killing, he drops the N-bomb, killing black people. Right? Because then we'd find out which one of y'all forgot who was black. And that's in a cold way, that's the truth, man. Because if the ideas of the Caribbean, of what they did to get their freedom, ever come up here, man, Candace Owens better run. Candace Owens better run. Who's that fool that used to be on CNN? Paris Denard better run. Right? Stacey Dash better run. There's a whole bunch of motherfuckers better run. Right? Better run. But yeah, that whole thing about how slavery was won in the Caribbean and that colorism thing is going to come out to the forefront, right? Kamala Harris's ancestry is on the Dravidian side. From Tamil Nadu, it's on the Dravidian side. And the Dravidian people have been subjected to colorism and bigotry about their color from way the fuck back. Way the fuck back, right? I'm telling you, man, we're talking about from King Tutankhamun to now, okay? Way the fuck back. And you're going to see it, right? A lot of the Kamala Harris is going to be real cool with people who are darker than her. It's not going to be a thing. And Joe Biden better get fucking used to it too. Because the surrogates, you don't believe me, go look at her surrogate. He announced her surrogate before he announced Kamala Harris as his vice president. Go look at Karine Jean-Pierre. Go take a look at her. She's Haitian. Her parents are Haitian. Go take a look at Simone Sanders. You're going to see a lot of that shit. Go pull up K-Hive and see the darkness, the colors variations that you'll see there, right? And they've worked through that colorism a lot better than white America has. Okay? White America has not worked through that colorism shit yet. There's a whole bunch of motherfuckers who claim to not see color, right? Well, we gonna see all them motherfuckers who claim I don't see color. They gonna see color. You gonna see how real. There's a saying that colorism is fucking what is it? When you're colorblind for life, right? You can't see shit else. But these motherfuckers who claim to be colorblind, yeah, you're going to see just how colorblind these motherfuckers are, because they're not colorblind. You're going to see it. They're going to come out for it, and it's going to be real blatant. It's going to be real fucking blatant. And it's gonna pull the fucking, finally it's gonna pull the scab off. Trump's been trying to pull it off for the longest time. You know, if I was a gambling man, if I still was a gambling man, I would bet $1,000 that Donald Trump or Rush Limbaugh or Tom Cotton or who else would be dumb enough to do this shit or bold enough to do this shit. I'd say those three. I'd bet $1,000 it'd be one of them three. It might be Sean Hannity, but I doubt it, because that motherfucker lives in Queens, and he sometimes walks to work. He would never walk to work again, right? Of those four, I bet $1,000 one of them's going to drop the N-bomb from now until election. One of them. Of the four of them, it's between Rush and Cheeto. Cheeto, Hitler, and Rush. Trump and Rush, between now and election, one of them's going to drop the N-bomb. I promise you that shit. They're not going to be able to discuss this without discussing what happened in the Caribbean and what those people did to get their freedom, and the colorism, the bigotry against darker-skinned Indians, right? It's going to bring out the bigotry between light and dark-skinned black people. I have a family friend in Houston who's from Louisiana. She's very light-skinned. She has black women's hair, right? It's not fair hair, very light skinned. And her daughters, one of them is light skinned like her, and the other one's darker as me. And the emotional abuse that darker skinned girl had to put through in that family, you can see those scars from a distance, right? I mean, just the difference in the way they're treated and all that. One was always called pretty, the other one was, you know what I mean? It's fucked up. And if you have darker skin in the family, or you're in a family that has different levels of skin tone, you know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. And that shit's going to come out, and you're going to see it. Okay? All right. Please look into Aryan and Dravidian. Please look into the only king that ever claimed himself to be an Aryan king. He's buried in fucking Iran. All right? Look into that shit. Right? Also, please pay attention about how they're going to start talking about Jamaica and the Caribbean, and look into the Haitian Revolution. Look into what Dessalines and Toussaint did. If those ideas start getting planted in here, oh, all bets are off. Shit gonna get wild for real. Okay? Peace.